there viewers, I'm the Extraordinary Tourist and welcome to part 2 of my video diary documenting the creation of my latest painting titled 3 Wise Colour Monkeys. In this episode of my diary I'm going to show you my camera setup that I've put together for filming the actual creation of the artwork, and I'll also show you where the artwork is up to at this point and explain a bit of the process for how it got there. So without further ado, let's get on with the rest of the diary. So I just thought I'd quickly show you my camera setup for filming the creation of this artwork. As you can see, what I've got here is I've set up my tripod on this bookshelf here, and I've got my camera phone. This is actually an old Windows phone that I had before my new phone. I'm still using as a camera because it happens to be sort of the best quality camera I have at the moment, other than my actual phone that I'm filming this with now. But from this angle I get a nice overhead shot of the canvas here, and I personally don't get in the way of the camera while I'm working, but I'm actually still in the shot, so you can sort of see me, sort of all my arm movements and head and all that in shot as I'm working. But as well as that, where it's positioned, I can actually sort of come over this way a little bit and talk to that camera, and my whole face and stuff is still in shot. And the whole thing, as you can see, is fairly well lit by this fluoro light that I've got right above me, which stops too much shadow being cast on the canvas. And obviously having the tripod up there means I can just leave it there for as long as I like. I don't need to pack it up, it's not in the way, which is really good when you're trying to film creating art. Being able to put the camera somewhere out of the way, it means it's easy to start up the camera whenever your sort of inspiration hits and you feel like you want to do a bit of painting and whatever. You don't have to set up the camera first, you can just sort of turn it on and start painting. So, I hope you found that little bit interesting of just how I've got my camera set up. So right away, this is the view from the camera. You can clearly see everything that I'm doing. You can see my sketch there, and you can see the paint and the palette that I'm using. And you can sort of see me in shot as well. For this first bit, I decided to show you me painting in real time, just so you could get an idea of how quickly I am painting. And bear in mind, this section is me just starting out after having not painted on canvas for quite some time, so it's a bit of a slow start, and I do sort of gradually get a bit quicker. But all of this is being drawn direct or transferred directly to the canvas using red acrylic paint. There's no pencil sketch under there. You can see it just kicked in with sped up footage, so that you can just sort of watch me draw this stuff without having to go the full 40 minutes that it took me to actually transfer this drawing onto the canvas and then do my extra bits and pieces that I did. If you look closely, you can see that the canvas has a masking tape border around the edge. This is something that I used to do on all of my acrylic paintings because it would allow me to sort of paint over the edge of the frame without hitting the edge of the canvas, and sort of help with the problem that sometimes happens when you draw a curve near the edge of a canvas. It can affect your curve, and you sometimes get an effect that makes your curves look a little squashed, whereas if you can draw past the edge of your frame, it helps keep the curves going exactly how you want them and not being affected by the edge. But as well as that, I put the masking tape on because once I remove that at the end of the painting, that'll give me a nice white border that'll make this artwork look a bit like a comic book panel, which I thought was appropriate given that it's a sort of a very cartoony image. You can see here as I'm drawing this particular final monkey, you can see me doing a few construction lines just to get the proportions in, but once I've done that, sort of going straight into adding the details. It tends to be just sort of guessing as to where things go. I don't try to be accurate to my sketch at all. It's just a guide. If things get a bit different on the actual canvas, I don't worry about it too much. You can see here that the canvas itself is a bit narrower than the page that the sketch is on, so everything is sort of being a little bit squashed together a bit more. So like the monkey's tails are a bit closer to them than what they are in the pencil sketch, particularly that one on the far end there. And you also notice here on this middle monkey, I wasn't happy with how I drew the legs on that in the sketch. It just sort of didn't seem properly balanced, considering the monkey himself is sort of leaning on this tree branch, kind of trying to balance himself. If his legs were kicked out behind him like they are in the pencil sketch, he probably wouldn't be able to balance. And I really wanted his legs to be sort of kicking out forwards a bit more, so that's what I tried to do in transferring it onto the canvas. So you can see I've done his legs in a totally different position there, which I think is a little better, but it's still not great, but it's better than the sketch. So at this point I've finished transferring the sketch over, and what I'm doing now is using the remainder of my red paint to fill in areas of shading that in the final image will be mid-tones or will be actually coloured in red. And quite a lot of this particular image is going to be in mid-tones, so you'll see I get quite a bit of coverage with the red paint, almost to the point where the actual image that I've drawn on there is hard to tell, which is not unusual for me. A lot of the reason why I just draw my image on in red anyway is that if I did pencil lines first, this first layer of red would completely obliterate most of the drawing anyway, so it's easier just to draw straight on there in red and not worry about pencil lines. Again, here we are back in real time just to finish off this particular section, and from here I'll move on to doing the rest of my underpainting. And as I said, that whole thing took me about 40 minutes to get to this point. So I hope you've enjoyed seeing my process so far, and I hope you found it interesting and perhaps even got something out of it. Tune in next week to see how much further along I get with this particular artwork, and until then, thanks for watching.